What's up everyone, Joseph here. In this video, we're going to take a look at the grammar that is on page 11 of the book. That's page 11 on unit 2 of the second book. Indirect questions from WH questions. So, we use indirect questions when we are talking to a person we don't know and we want to be polite. Or we can be talking to a person we know and we still want to be polite. For example, an an elder like your grandma, your grandpa maybe, or someone important like the president of the Dominican Republic, the president of an institution, your boss, and so on. When you want to sound polite, you use indirect questions. So, which one sounds more polite to you? How much does this magazine cost? Can you tell me how much this magazine costs? This sounds more polite to say. Can you tell me how much this magazine costs? So how do we create indirect questions? We create indirect questions using one of these three question starter phrases. So we have three starter phrases like do you know? Could you tell me? Can you tell me? You can use one or the other. So for example, direct questions. Why is the store closed? Indirect questions. Do you know why the store is closed? Direct question. Where can I get a hat? Indirect questions. Could you tell me where I can get a hat? Another example, direct questions. What does she need? Can you tell me what she needs? Another direct questions. What doesn't she need? Can you tell me what she doesn't need? So, notice that the original question changes when you ask it indirectly. How does it change? The indirect questions will start with the question word. Again, they start with the question word. But the word order is like a statement, not like a question. So here with direct questions, they have the structure of a WH question, like WH, verb be, subject, and the complement. And here, WH word with can, WH word, can, subject, verb, and the complement. And here, WH questions in the simple present. What does she need? The auxiliary, subject, and the verb. And here is a negative question. What doesn't she need? The auxiliary does, subject, and the verb. So let's take a look at the indirect question now. Like we read here, the indirect question will start with the question word, why, where, what, and what. But the word order is like a statement. So after that, the word order is like a normal statement. It can be positive or negative. So let's take a look. Do you know why the store is closed? Can you see? Is after the WH word, it's like a simple present statement with the verb be. Why the store is closed? Could you tell me where I can get a hat? After the WH word, the subject, the auxiliary can, and then the verb get. They change places here. Where I can get a hat? And here, where can I get a hat? Can you tell me what she needs? Can you tell me what she needs? What is missing here? What word is missing here? Well, here we're not using does. Why? In the WH questions, in the simple present, we need the auxiliary do or does. But here, like we read, the word order is like a statement. So, what is and how do we write statements in the simple present? We don't use the auxiliary do or does. We just change the main verb to its conjugation. If it's the third person, we conjugate the verb. So that is why we are not using does here. And the verb changes form because it turns into a statement. And let's take a look at this one in the negative form. What doesn't she need? Okay, can you tell me? Oh, I forgot to paint these words. So give me a second and excuse me for the waste of time. Can you tell me what she they change places, you see? She doesn't need. So it stays the same here because remember, in the negative form, we use the auxiliary do or does and not, and the verb stays the same in the negative form. So this rule applies to these indirect questions. So let's take a look at different structures. Well, before I continue, take a look at this. You remember I use colors for different types of words. For example, I use green with the subject. I use red with the verbs and with the gerunds as well. I also use red. And I use pink for auxiliaries. And you might be thinking, well, you are using two sets of color here. You are using two greens. Does this question have two subjects? Does this question have two verbs? And does this question have two auxiliaries? And the answer is that this question is divided in two. This is what is called clauses. We are going to see clauses later in the program. So what I want you to know is that it's like there are two sentences in one. In this question, we have two sentences. We have this part here that have the same rules, and this part here that have the same rules. These are like two sentences. That's why I painted this this subject and this subject. We have two subjects here. It's because they are two different sentences in one question. And like I said, we are going to see clauses later in this program. You can investigate by yourself what clauses are. This is the word, clauses. You can investigate this if you wish, but we are going to see that later. So let's take a look at the structures. Direct WH questions with be. We know this, the direct WH questions with be, WH word, verb be, the subject, and the complement. So now the indirect questions structure with be. We use one of the phrases we saw here. Okay, phrases. When I mention phrases, I am talking about this here. So the phrase plus the WH word plus the subject plus the verb be and the complement. Like I said, they change places. You see? Verb be here in the direct questions and the verb be is after the subject in the indirect question. Can you tell me where the bank is? Can you tell Can you tell me the phrase where the WH word, the bank, the subject is the verb be? And we don't have complements here. Remember, complements are optional. Do you know why you are here? Why are you here? Is the direct question. Do you know why you are here? The indirect question. Could you tell me where I am going to sleep? See, they change places. Can you tell me where I am going to sleep? And here, where am I going to sleep? So, direct WH question structure with do or does. This is the structure. We know this structure, the direct WH questions with do or does with the simple present. WH question, do or does, the subject, the verb, and the complement. What do you know? How much does the t-shirt cost? Where does Carol work? We know how to create these questions. Now the indirect WH questions with do or does. The phrase, you know the phrase here, plus the WH word, plus the subject, plus the verb. But the verb modified depending on the subject. Remember, the verb is modified depending on if you're using the first, the second, or the third person. With the third person, you have to add an S to most of the verbs. So, and plus the complement, of course. Can you tell me what you know? Question mark. Remember the question mark. Can you tell me what you know? In the direct questions, what do you know? We use do. Can you tell me what you know? We don't use do here. How much does the t-shirt cost? Could you tell me how much the t-shirt costs? Again, we don't use does in this indirect question, and the verb is conjugated because we are using the third person here. Where does Carol work? Do you know where Carol works? We don't use does in the indirect question, and the verb is modified because we're using the third person, Carl. So, finally, we're going to take a look at direct WH question structure with can. Again, we know how to create WH questions with can. WH word, can, the subject, plus the verb, plus the complement. Where can we buy some food? What can I do for you? Why can't you help me with this? And the indirect question, the phrase, we know the phrases, do you know, could you tell me, can you tell me? And plus the WH word, plus the subject, plus can, plus the verb, plus the complement. Again, the subject and can change places. In the direct questions, can is first and subject is the second. And in the indirect questions, the subject is first and can is the second. Do you know where we can buy some food? Do you know where we can buy some food? Could you tell me what I can do for you? Can you tell me why you can't help me with this? Again, they are using this structure. And of course the negative, I didn't write the negative here because you know the negative goes next to can. So this is the end of the video. I will see you on the next one.